Not your keys, not your crypto. I am assuming a lot of you have heard or been reminded of that today. We have got a lot to talk about. A very volatile day in the crypto world because on the bullish side, Bitcoin eclipsed $64,000, which caused the entire ecosystem to go nuts in enjoying it and in just everything over Twitter, YouTube, nothing but bullishness. But of course, there was rain on the parade as Coinbase went down. Several accounts, including my own, showed $0 for a time period. Now, while that's back up, the question is, what is the long-term impact of this Coinbase fiasco? Should you ever trust Coinbase ever again? Is this going to stifle the Bitcoin rally, or is it just a bump in the road? And are we going to be seeing new all-time highs coming in the next couple of days? We're going to talk about all of that and a whole lot more. And I'm going to go and spoil stuff for you guys. Nothing is really that clear right now. There are still so many things pointing towards bullish price action, but we can't ignore the signs that there could be some form of a pullback. We're going to reveal all of that to you guys, so stick around for the entire episode. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do a community trade. We're going to dive into the news. We're going to do the TA. It's going to be a great show. But before we get into any of those things, I do have to introduce my co-host for the show, Mr. T-Shroom from down there in Gainesville, Florida. T-Shroom, it's raining here in Georgia. It's raining in crypto. How's Gainesville doing today?
Well, Tim, it's not raining. It's been very, very windy here. I'm doing better than I deserve for those keeping score at home. And I do have a quote of the day for everybody. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. A little wordplay there from Audrey Hepburn. Tim, are you having fun yet?
That's the actress from Parks and Rec, right?
I don't think so. No. Let me
Who's Audrey Hepburn?
Stand by.
I'm pretty sure it is. No, maybe it's not. Who am I thinking of? No, it's just an actress. It is an actress though, so I was in that right. Like Audrey, what is her name?
I think she's in Breakfast and Tiffany's. I think that's the one. Maybe.
Okay.
A Fair Lady.
She's definitely not in Parks and Recs, but there's another Audrey that's in Parks and Rec.
Oh, Audrey Plaza.
Cute quote. It's a cute quote. There are definitely things that are impossible. But, this is
like
a go-get 'em. This is a go-get 'em type of thing. It is impossible for us to not talk about crypto. I
was going to say, for a large-scale server not to have downtime. There's one.
Yeah, that's true.
Too close to
Matt C is making fun of me. But then again, this shows my age. This proves I'm a young person, that I didn't immediately place who Audrey Hepburn is. Sorry about it, Matt.
I've definitely heard the name before, and she is.
I'd heard it before. I just placed it with the wrong person. So we'll. Good quote though, T-Shroom. I like the quote. Anything else before we jump in and do a little market update, then our community trade, and then get into the nooks and crannies of the crypto world today?
I think so, Tim. You may have rustled some more feathers than you realize. I think that there's some folks out there who are saying Coinbase server downtime. What's going on here? I think let's put a little bit more meat on the bones for the bros, just so that they're not panicking. Everything now is okay, from what we understand. Tim, is that correct? Everything's been put back up.
I mean, I think the last I checked, a couple of 15 minutes ago, I still saw someone post on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, my account's not back up yet." But for example, I had money in Coinbase. It went to zero. I really wasn't worried even before I understood what was happening. I was more like I saw it and I was like, "That's funny," but there's got to be an explanation. Then I went to Coinbase's Twitter. I reposted it. A lot of people responded to it. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts about Coinbase here in just a couple of minutes. As a whole, though, I'll give you guys the cheat notes on it. I'm not that worried about it as a whole. My biggest gripe is going to be, and I wasn't planning on doing it anyway, but my biggest gripe and biggest problem that I think most people are going to have is it killed the ability for anyone who maybe wanted to take profits to take profits. By the time it came back up, Bitcoin was back down to 60,000. So there's some frustrations there for sure, but I do think there's a little bit of confusion and chaos in the world that we do need to give some answers to before people freak out and give up on crypto altogether. With that said, though, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of crypto here, T-Shroom. Let's check over and see what CoinMarketCap is doing. Despite the chaos, Bitcoin is still up 6.56% in the last 24 hours, almost 20% in the last 7 days. Notice those numbers in that two category bigger than almost anything else in the top 10 except for Dogecoin. And shout out to Dogecoin. We're actually doing a Dogecoin community trade because we got that recommendation. We're going to be doing a Dogecoin 30x trade here in just a couple of minutes for the community. So stick around for that. But Bitcoin making some big moves. Do you know what that means, T-Shroom, when you take a look at the top 10 and Bitcoin is the biggest mover? That means that this chart right here is looking extremely bullish. And that chart, ladies and gentlemen, is the Bitcoin dominance chart climbing back up over 55%, breaking a key level of resistance here. Let me pull down the oscillators, breaking that green line, which has been a little bit of resistance, a little bit of support at times in the last couple of months. But this is something to keep an eye on. I'm going to talk more about this in the technical analysis section. What does this actually mean for Bitcoin? Not just what does it mean for my bet that I have with DZ. We'll cover that and more. Let's take a look at the biggest gainers and biggest losers here more recently. Arweave of 46%. There's another coin I was looking at, Fetch. There we go. So Fetch, I was checking out. I was kind of going through coins that I follow. So I have my AI list, Fetch up 15% in the last 24 hours. The Coinbase fiasco didn't seem to affect it whatsoever. And I have to say the same for Arweave, Jasby Coin, Aptos, Fetch, even Dogecoin up 15% or so. Pepe is in this group as well. You guys know Pepe was the big mover yesterday. Today, it's still in the top 10 of the biggest movers. We kind of talked about that. I'm not using this as a defining argument to say that the top is in for this little rally. But remember, we have seen historically sometimes when you see massive pumps in the meme coin spectrum, and again, we have two of them in the top 10 gainers over the last 2 days, sometimes that is a sign that you're at the last part of the cycle of that rally, and a normal 20, 30, who knows what percentage cool off to the crypto markets as a whole should come. I'm not necessarily talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about altcoins. So if we were to look at total 2 or total 3, normally we see pumps in the meme coin sector kind of give us a bite into saying, hey, we might see a little bit of a cool off for altcoins. That said, I made a video today on some of the most attractive ones. There's 11 coins that right now I think could have some intriguing, at least either March or April rallies. If they have cool off in March based off of a dip in the markets, they still are going to be sitting in a spot that they're oversold on the daily chart. So keep an eye on that video. After this show is over, go give it a look. Even if my timeline's a little off, I stay by some of the price predictions that I make in that video. Keep an eye on it. Let's see what's losing here today, T-Shroom. Gala is down. So we got a lot of, just right off the bat, the top two, both in the gaming world here. Gala and Beam are two biggest losers, 9% and 8%. BitGet token down 7%. ApeCoin, NFT coin, here we go, down 6%. Near continue to cool off after some big gains. You guys can still see massive gains over the last 90 days, even last 30 days. If it didn't have so many red days here in a row, its number the last 7 days and 30 days will be a lot higher. That, to me, is actually potentially a sign the AI world is very attractive. Look for AI tokens that seem to have not been doing well over the last couple of days. Could be another set of coins to keep your eye on for a potential good rally. Celestia is down here as well. Pyth or Pith, however you want to announce it. That's a coin we've been talking about more and more in the Investing Bros community. It is down, but you can see, again, big numbers more recently, which makes you wonder, is this potentially a small cool-off before it can re-find its footing and maybe is a good spot to get in low on some Pith? So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. From the market perspective, we're going to jump in here in a couple of minutes, jump into some news, get into some TA, do some Q&A. We're going to have lots of time today for some Q&A, but also some good discussion talks. Let's do it. Let's get our trade in here today. For those of you who don't know, we're going to start daily doing a community trade where the members in our Discord, free Discord, so you guys can get in there and vote, are going to be able to choose every single day to do some trading where at the end of each week, whatever we gain, whatever our profits are for those trades, we're going to be giving away to one of our members. Today, the selection was Dogecoin at 30x leverage trade. Let's start by looking at the 15-minute chart. I told T-Shroom I was kind of looking at this a little earlier. I wish I could have entered this trade 10 minutes before the live stream started. You guys know for this trade, we're going to be using Blofin and Lux Algo, two of our sponsors. We have been crushing it on community trades here recently, and that is thanks to Lux Algo. Let's see if the route can continue. We're bound to lose one of these eventually. We just haven't yet. On the 15-minute chart, we have recently reprinted bullish with a take profit level up here back to 12 cents. But you can see we are moving down over the last 3 15-minute candles. Let's see what the oscillators are kind of saying. We're under bearish momentum, and the money flow is going negative. So I'm going to lean towards 15-minute chart. I'm already sitting here thinking I think I want to see a little bit of a short, at least back down to this equilibrium. Let's make the decision, though, based off of what the 5-minute chart is saying, where look at this is why I wish I could have done it before. Red reversal dot, bearish momentum. The money flow is negative and steadily going to the downside. I'm going to go ahead and say here, guys, I think that the right trade is probably a short. And let's go ahead and just for the team, let's put the take profit. This is not going to be a phenomenal trade. Do not copy this trade necessarily because it might not play out the way I want to. But I'm thinking here, we're going to hit take profit here at about 10. Let's go 1088. And at 30x, that should get us close to 100%. Let's go over to our Blofin. Let's go find Doge. USDT. We're going to go 30x here based off the community point. We're going to go $10, roughly $10 if we can. Might be a little higher. All right, we're going to go 15. I'm going to throw you guys a bone there. Take profit. What did I say? 10, 0.88. Stop loss trigger. Let's go. Let's just go back to these highs of 1175. 0.1175. There is our short order. Bada boom. Bada bang. There we go. So the reason why this is not a smart trade, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure people who are used to trading are going to be screaming at me, we're technically risking more money than we're willing to make on this trade. In fact, my stop loss, now that I'm looking at it, might not even hit that before we get liquidated. But this is what we're going to go with right here. Let's look for a potential move to 1088 for our take profit. We'll check in with that just a little bit later. T-Shroom. Let's get into breaking stories that maybe don't warrant conversation. We'll jump into some charts, and then we'll have our discussion here in just a couple of minutes. Again, if you guys are just joining, thank you for being here. We are going to be talking about Coinbase, getting your guys' takes as well, but I'm going to be kind of breaking down what's really the big takeaway from Coinbase, how you should be thinking about it. Is it bullish? Is it bearish? Should you be afraid? We're going to get into that and more. But T-Shirt, what's our breaking news for today other than Coinbase?
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest news is bullish news, right? And, there's been a lot of jitters, a lot of craziness, a lot of noise in the signals, but there's no noise in this signal. Check this out, Tim. Bitcoin Archive, just in Bitcoin, ETFs have taken in 4.9 billion net in the last 13 days. That's 377 million per day, 6,388 Bitcoin per day. 7x the daily Bitcoin issuance. I asked the 9 a.m. bros, what happens when demand exceeds supply? When demand goes up and supply stays the same? And I'll ask the same question to you, Tim. What typically occurs at that point in time in the supply and demand dynamic?
So you said when supply goes down and demand goes up?
Yeah.
Very simple. Price goes to the upside.
That's right. That's right. That's what I've seen. That's what we're continuing to see on the charts.
Laws of economy, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. Well, Tim, in terms of breaking news, that's about it, because there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, but it's going to be stuff that we can talk about in just a little bit here on the other side of the TA.
Sounds good. Let's get in here. Let's do some Bitcoin TA. Now, let's start off here looking at the 5-minute chart. We were just there on Dogecoin, but I want you guys to appreciate the volatility here on Bitcoin. Of course, great morning this morning, rallying up, touching levels that we did talk about yesterday. Now, I leaned a little more heavy. I'll admit that I leaned heavier towards the $63,000 level. I did talk to you guys about a zone here between 63 to 64,000, the highs we had back in April of 2021. To be fair, let's be specific. The exact high was 64,899, so it's actually closer to 65,000. Either way, we gave you guys that zone and said, hey, that's the next level here. If we were to do Fibonacci here on these longer time frames, that was the next significant level to keep an eye out for a potential reversal. If you guys watched my video on Bitcoin yesterday, I talked in that video about, even though we potentially could even hit new highs, get all as high as 75,000 and still be in play, we are looking like we're in wave 5 of an Elliott wave theory. Wave 1, of course, starting from the bottom of November in 2022 up to the highs we had in July of 23. That's wave 1. We rallied 107%. Then we had a very quick and short wave 2 where we cooled down back to 25,000. Wave 3 brought us up. We had a 97% rally up to this high in January. That was wave 3, followed by a very short wave 4 down. And now we're in a bullish push for wave 5. But the rules that we have learned, again, I'm not professing to be an expert on Elliott wave theory, But Elliott waves, the level 3 can never be, the wave 3 is never the shortest wave. And since wave 1 was longer than wave 3, that means wave 5 is going to be shorter than wave 3, which means it's going to be less than 97%. Now, again, that gives us a lot of room to the upside because let's say it was 96%. A 96% rally would put us at 75,085. So could we go that high? Yes, we absolutely could. And we would still be obeying the laws of the Elliott wave theory. My opinion, though, is that we're not going to quite get there. I talked yesterday about either 63 to 64 being the top or a double top at 69,000. I will be very surprised, extremely surprised if we break through after this little fiasco today. If we do rally, do not expect to slash through 69,000 like it's nothing. Historically, when you look at Bitcoin price action, we have always at least temporarily wrestled with previous all-time highs before breaking through them. This is the price action December of 2020. Explosive rallies, but then we spent a 2-week period getting to that all-time high before finally breaking through. Same thing back here. While we actually technically did breach it, we did reject right around the same level of the high of November 13 with a big pullback before finally breaking through it, so on and so forth. I'm just going to sit here and say, again, the counter argument is this time is different. I don't always like that argument, but I'm not predicting a quick breakthrough of 69,000 without at least a little bit of wrestling from people selling who maybe bought the top or close to the top and just want to get away from Bitcoin altogether. I will say, and this is where we get into, I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about what Coinbase is happening. No, I'm not, T-Shroom. I changed my mind. Middle stream, I have some more Bitcoin TI I want to take a look at, but I'm going to save it for the Coinbase conversation. What I will point out, though, and you don't need to go to the charts. If you know, well, actually, go to the charts real quick. I talked about the Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance shot up about 55%. Here's what is really important. Go to my screen here, T-Shroom. This is happening and rallying despite the fact that we had a $6,000 cool off. That's a 10% cool off on Bitcoin. If you actually take a look here, let's go to lower time frames like the 30-minute chart. Let's go to the 10-minute chart. Let's go to the 10-minute chart. I'll go to the other screen where there's not as much noise. Let's look at Bitcoin right here. Bitcoin, after peaking here, saw in just 20 minutes a 9% cool off, close to a 10% cool off, but 9%. You come over here and you take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum, in those same short 20 minutes, saw for itself a nice little, let's see what it was. Boom. 8, not even quite 9, a little bit less, but 8.5% cool off. You move to altcoins like Cardano. Cardano in that same, almost same 20 minutes. Took a little bit longer for Cardano, but let's see what the cool off was. Right there at the same 9%. Almost everything hovering right below or right at 10%. It all happened together. That is something that's very important to watch, that it happened in unison. It actually is telling us potentially this could be a sign of a very important mark in this rally. And I'm going to tell you more about what that means. I wanted to set the table, but let's get into the Coinbase conversation now, T-Shroom. I will explain why that is significant, that almost everything fell perfectly around 10%, and what the Coinbase news means for the future of crypto price action.
Absolutely. Well, I want to preface the Coinbase conversation with the following quote from Robert Kiyosaki. He said this just days ago, and it's very important right now to hear it. There are also more stories that we'll be covering too, but this Coinbase story is obviously the biggest of the day, and it's gonna take a little while to cover it and give our full take on it. Robert Kiyosaki. I am often asked, what happens if Bitcoin crashes? My reply is the same for Bitcoin, gold, or silver. My reply is I would be happy and I would buy more once the crashing stops. All market crashes are assets going on sale. It's my favorite 4-letter word, sale. Probably up there with free. I love it, Tim. So let's go ahead and
let's be fair. Let's be fair real quick.
Be fair.
Because that is the word that people are going to throw around, crash. I'll be very clear. Like I just said, everything fell like 10%, 9%, 10%. That is not a crash. Nope. It is a correction. And the fact that it happened so fast is something that should not be ignored. But let's not throw the word crash around, because we have not seen a crash. We've just seen a momentum stop with a very quick dip in the crypto space.
It's a dip. It's a very buyable dip. And I think that's what Robert is alluding to there. He was not he said this days ago. He couldn't have predicted exactly what was going to happen here. But he's referring to a 20, 30, 40% crash, right? All right. Taking a look here at the Coinbase story. Coinbase users see zero balance after crypto trading app suffers a glitch. We are aware that some users see zero balance across their Coinbase accounts and may experience errors in buying or selling. Coinbase said in a statement to CNBC, "Our team is investigating this issue and will provide an update shortly. Your assets are safe." So this is a very important kind of message from them as they're trying to quell the markets, create a stillness in the markets. One thing I will point out off the bat: Coinbase up on the day, still up 1.29% here as of about 3:20 Eastern Standard Time. Right. I'll even refresh the page just so you can see it. This kind of says all you need to see. Right. If there was a major issue with Coinbase, this would not be a green number right here. That says it all, but there are some more details we can cover here as well. Bitcoin has seen significant, has been surging as of late, in case you hadn't noticed, topping 60,000 on Wednesday, getting much higher than that for the first time since 2021, reaching a collective market cap of nearly $1.2 trillion for Bitcoin. So that's kind of the details there, Tim. There's not a lot to know. I mean, what there is, the details that are out there, I just went over them. Let us know in the chat, because it does take a village with something like this. Let us know. Are there any other details that are providing comfort or continued worry? Let us know. What do you think about this in the chat? We'd love to know. And any other additional information that you have. But Tim, what is happening here, and should we be worried?
Well, let's look at what's happening in chat here that we do know. So I put a poll out to start the show. We've now had almost 170 people vote on this poll, and we're leaning a little bit more towards positive. But I asked the question, do you trust Coinbase with your money? 57% right now of 170 votes are saying yes. 43% are saying no. Here's what I want people to understand about what happened with Coinbase. First of all, this was not the first time this has happened in Coinbase. I actually looked it up. It's happened several times in history. Sometimes it's just not a very big deal. People don't care about it. This one is so important because it was happening while we were making crazy rallies to the upside, and people were starting to ask the question, are we going to hit a new all-time high today based off this momentum, right? So this is why a lot of people's eyeballs are on their Coinbase account. It's happened before, and you want to know something? It's going to happen again. Where people are going down the wrong trail is I've seen comments. I've heard people communicate like, oh no, is this the next Celsius? Is this the next FTX? No, it is not. First of all, this could possibly be a very bullish thing for crypto as a whole. Why? Because this is actually going to prove that Coinbase isn't making the same mistakes that those two exchanges made. They are not commingling funds. This is a rush of retail investors. Let me stop. I think this is a rush of retail investors. A friend of mine called me about 20 minutes before the show was live asking me, what's going on, Tim? What do you think? And I told him my opinion, but I said at the same time, we need to wait for some more information to come out about this. Ultimately, what we kind of see going on here, this would be like someone came in the room and they're bleeding. There's a lot of blood on them, right, T-Shroom? And a question you might ask is, did they get shot? Were they shot? Now, blood is a sign that they could have been shot, but there's lots of reasons they could have blood. They could have gotten a scratch. They could have gotten stabbed. They could have, the whole point is we need some more confirmation about exactly what happened. However, I think, key word there, I think that this was due to a massive amount of retail investors coming into the hype. And here is my problem. An overusage causes Coinbase to crash temporarily. Ultimately, your funds were never in jeopardy. The website just couldn't handle the inflow of people. The biggest negative to take away from this is, well, unfortunately, other exchanges were able to sell the top. Coinbase users were not. But this brings me to the bearishness that I don't want to ignore, that if it is true, if this was caused by an excessive amount of retail investors coming into the space, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to be the rain on the parade like Coinbase was to the rally, but what is a normal thing to happen when retail investors comes in bulk after a rally? Historically, those indicate tops. If you go over to my chart here, T-Shirt, let's take a look at what we have going on. Look also what we have going on with volume. Notice that volume has been not that high recently during this whole rally. It's actually something we mentioned the other day. I told you guys, as much as I loved what was happening here, let's go to this chart as well. Let's go to, both of them are going to communicate. Coinbase had a lot of volume coming in here, actually on Coinbase. Now it's all back on. But let's go to the total. We had boring volume throughout this whole rally, and I said, be prepared because the next time we see a spike could be the correction. Well, sure enough, the high volume has come in as we are hitting a very key level of resistance. As the thought at the moment, the easiest explanation of the shutdown is most likely a mass amount of retail investors coming in. This could spell the potential top of the rally. That's my biggest takeaway. I'm not scared, T-shirt. We can go back to our bro cam now. I'm not scared of Coinbase going down forever. I do think this is a time to remind everybody, not your keys, not your crypto. Even though I'm not worried about Coinbase being a problem like Celsius or FTX, I still highly recommend people move at least the majority of their long-term crypto holdings into a cold wallet. Do your research, find one that works for you. I really like Arculus. There's a couple others that are good as well. But do your research. But I'm not worried about Coinbase. I actually think that this could be something very bullish to show people your money is safe on Coinbase, safer than other exchanges. Because even though temporarily it went down and you saw zero, they're proving they're not a company that's susceptible to the same type of downfall as the Celsius or FTX. They actually are very, very secure. They just need to upgrade their network connectivity problems, in the words of Parks and Recs. If some of you guys know that, shout out. You can put in chat what that's from, who said that. My point is I'm not worried about Coinbase whatsoever. I actually think this could be a bullish case for Coinbase. What I am concerned about is what is this communicating? We're dipping even right now as we speak. I referenced this earlier. Remember, just about 10 minutes ago, I talked about the Bitcoin dominance chart moving to the upside. And those of you who have been following for a while, we got 340 people in here. Thank you to every single one of you watching. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe if you're enjoying the channel. But for the members, I want to speak to you guys for just a second. The guys who have been watching, the guys and girls who have been watching now for months, I've told you a characteristic of the top is Bitcoin rallies, the Bitcoin dominance rallies, and then everything falls in unison, yet the dominance continues to climb to the upside. And that's exactly what we saw happen today. In fact, today, even though a lot of the money in the last couple of days has been flowing into Bitcoin, like T-Shroom said, we have historic numbers flowing into the ETFs. Even here on Coinbase and centralized exchanges, there's a massive inflow of people wanting to buy Bitcoin. Why, when there was a crash, did everything simultaneously move down 10%? It's not like Bitcoin crashed 10% and then altcoins were lagging a little behind of it. It was literally the entire space took a hit. A lot of times you see that as a beginning sign of a crash. Now, I'm not saying with 100% certainty that we have to crash right here. Go back to that analogy. We see blood on the t-shirt. We are not 100% certain yet. Is it a gunshot? Is it a scratch? Is it a knife? We don't know what the blood is. But the fact is it could be a gunshot. And in this case, we see blood in the markets. We don't know for certain that this was the top call, but it definitely is the beginning signs of a top call. So anyone who wants to just shove this out and say, Tim, stop being bearish, we're hitting new all-time highs by the end of the week, I'm not saying that that can't happen, but I cannot ignore that this is a particular sign that I had predicted. If we're looking for top signals, look for something just like this to happen. It coincided with a level I told you guys to be aware of, that $64,000 level, the high of April of 2021. We are seeing things line up that say the next couple of days are going to be very, very important to decide, was this a gunshot wound? Was this a scratch? What exactly was it? Let's talk about one more thing here, T-Shroom, that's not going in the favor of the bulls. Bitcoin dominance, Bitcoin fear and greed index hit the highest it has seen since what date, T-Shroom? November of 2021. We hit 82 today. I'm very curious to see what the number prints out tonight, so you'll have to hear that from us tomorrow. But let's come back here to the history of Bitcoin fear and greed index. Look at this. You don't just have to trust my word. The last time we were this high was all the way back in November of 2021, the actual bull market top. I've told you guys, again, we're still in the pre-halving cycle. The last time we had a big push that was not a true bull market, back in 2019, we reached as high as 94 on the Bitcoin fear and greed index. I've told you guys for months now, look for a potential surge followed by that historic correction, that 40 to 50% correction. This is another kind of category, camp in that category of saying, could we potentially see Bitcoin? When we come back over to charts, let's go back to it. Could we see Bitcoin? Come on now, Bitcoin chart, work with me here. Could we see this be that rally just like 2019? We've had that 20% pullback already, and now it is time for a decent size correction. Is that correction only back down to 40,000? Is that correction only back down to 38? Do we get that full clean sweep all the way back down to 32? I can't answer that with any certainty. I have my thoughts, my theories, but I think the least that we could do for a good pullback, and right now it would be one of more than 20%, would be coming back down towards that golden pocket that was resistance and hitting around $48,000. That would be a 24% correction. Bull markets and bull trends come with healthy corrections. So not going to be surprised if this does happen. I just want to see how the rest of this week kind of plays out. Can we close February strong? Can we recapture 64,000 and pick up where we left off before the Coinbase fiasco? Or are we seeing those beginning signs, those tall tale signs that, yeah, this run up has been amazing, but it's time for that cool off that no bull wants to hear about. But if you're smart, you look for it, you take advantage of it, and you count your millions in the bull market, which is not, in my mind, the real fireworks have not really started. We're talking about real fireworks coming post-halving, late summer. This would be a gift from God to see a 20 to maybe 40, maybe a 50% pullback would be amazing, because the real fireworks are coming later this year, and I want to make as much money as possible. I don't know about you.
I love it, Tim. I don't think you're the only one who wants to make as much money as possible. I think that you're far from the minority of, at least of Americans who are in that boat. Let's go ahead and take a look here at some other stories. But Tim, I think you're right on. I think you're right on with a lot of this analysis. And we've been calling for a pullback. I wouldn't say this is. This doesn't feel like it. This just feels like we got way overbought on the daily. And, it was like a daily pullback, but it doesn't feel like the pullback that we've kind of been talking about, warning about, anticipating. Again, it's like, to me, it's possible we might not get it at all, because this ETF buyer dynamic has changed the market. But that is definitely squarely in the category of a this time is different argument, which is you have to doubt those. You have to doubt them until they're proven true. And we might not know that until we're well above 120,000 without any 20% pullbacks. And it's like, what we are witnessing, the transformation of money here. There is some possibility where all bets are off, all historical consistency is completely out the door, because this is a once in every 10,000 year type of occurrence. That is in the cards. Let's take a look here at some of these stories. This one's pretty interesting. The Coinbase letter, kind of going against. So a lot of what we've been talking about is retail investment, right? And how that's kind of the question in my mind. Is retail in right now? It doesn't feel like it. But there's some arguments that I've been seeing from analysts that are saying it's mainly retail buying. So I think we need to get some clarity on that at some point.
Well, and that's the whole question that we're kind of wrestling with here.
Yeah.
Was what happened to Coinbase the evidence of the retail buyers coming back in bulk? And did they overload Coinbase?
I mean, that's how servers work, to my knowledge, right? So let's look at, this is a piece of evidence kind of showing that retail isn't in, maybe. Even as Bitcoin approaches the 2021 all-time highs of 69K, the hype isn't even started yet. Search interest for Bitcoin on Google is still only at roughly 23 compared to 90 plus seen in early 2021. Search interest year to date is flat, even as Bitcoin has rallied nearly 40% in 2024. In fact, search interest right now is only a few percentage points higher than it was in December of 2022 bottom. An all-time high headline for Bitcoin could be the turning point. What happens when the hype returns? So this chart right here illustrates exactly what I just described. This is from the Coinbase letter, by the way. Bitcoin search interest stands near 2022 lows. This is an astounding statistic. Are people potentially not needing the level of education required? Because that's one variable here. Is just because you're not Googling doesn't mean you're not buying, if that makes sense. I think in the purchase process for most people who haven't bought Bitcoin, they are absolutely Googling it multiple times and in multiple sessions of searching and browsing. But I do think that there could be a group of retail that has just been on the sidelines, had conviction, right? But is just like, now is the time to buy. They're not searching. So there is that variable. But overall, that's kind of like a benefit of the doubt argument. I think that this chart illustrates clearly retail is not in. So what do you think, Tim?
Yeah, my only argument would be here. Go to my chart. I'm looking at the same chart though, but I want to look at this though, because what they're comparing it to is this high back in early January of 2021. I come over to Bitcoin. I'm looking at the daily. Let's go to the weekly chart. This will make it a little easier to see. January of 2021, we're talking about this high right here. Had a nice 35% pullback, if my history is correct on that one. I can't remember the exact number, but anyway, had a pullback, but the bull market wasn't quite over. But they're comparing what we're currently doing to that move right there, where we had broken through all-time highs. We rallied all the way up to 42K, pulled back down to 28. I get you. I understand what they're trying to say there. But again, we haven't gotten to halving yet. These green lines represent halving events. I'm comparing the hype of the pre-halving to hype of other pre-halving hypes. You know, we have that one back in 2019. We have this one that came literally 30 days before the 2016 rally. We have these big hikes before the halving events. And so the question is, what does that look like necessarily? Well, going back over to the Bitcoin Google Trends alert, the date of that high, again, we're talking about June 2019. Look at the level. Is that not comparable with what we've seen here recently? My point here is that this is like a short-term retail investors coming in and potentially giving us a top. I can't say this with certainty. I'm making an argument here, so bear with me on this. But let's say this was the top. Let's say we know this for a fact. This is the top. We don't need to see the Bitcoin search term be to 100 to see a correction in the same way it wasn't at 100 back here either. We've seen similar levels. We're going to see retail investors come back who maybe haven't touched Bitcoin for 2-3 years. We're going to see people who are in the tech space who have never bought crypto, but they're very tech savvy and they've been hearing about it for a while. Those are the people we're seeing flooding right now. What we're not hearing is grandma and grandpa, construction company owner, over here from Arkansas. We're not hearing about those people getting into Bitcoin. Those are the people that will get in January or December later this year. And that's going to be the big, we get back to 100% and the retail investment is crazy. I understand the argument Kobesi is making here. I just want to make sure we're comparing the right atmospheres when we're saying history repeat itself. Technically speaking, we are at the same levels of Bitcoin trends by retail investors that we were back in the pre-halving 2019 top.
Right. And I think it's a dunk, right? Because I think what it's proving is like, so who's doing all the buying? It's institutions, which shouldn't be a shock because ETFs, right? That's kind of the way this is going. There's a lot of institutional demand for Bitcoin that's saying, yeah, the ETFs, we'll get to that, but we want to buy spot. We like Bitcoin. Larry Fink likes Bitcoin, but we want to buy it. We want to buy the spot. We want to put it on a cold wallet because I talked to my nephew and that's the way to do it, right? Or we paid some analyst, some consultant $80,000 for their advice and they said, put it on a cold wallet. Don't buy the ETF, right? So there is a lot of just on the market or OTC demand for spot outside of the ETF. The ETF, remember the buyers in the ETF, these are not like they're not really Wild West type investors. They're not high risk investors. They're getting into Bitcoin because these large banks are telling them it's okay. The US government's not going to come after you. And there's a clear path to taxation. This is, the regulatory clarity we need as Wall Street is there to start putting the masses, the herd of American wealth that has been accumulated over a couple hundred years into Bitcoin. Not all at once and not all of it. That's not the way that this is going to go. But it is a decent amount of institutional money that is being represented by money managers that is going in through the ETF, but there's plenty of just savvy, more Wall Street, like gunslinger types that are like, shoot, let's just, I've been trading cattle, I've been trading energy, but I got this big chunk of money. Heck, let's just buy it and put it on a cold wallet, right? That's what Gary Cardone did in his video. That's what all these other gunslingers from Wall Street are doing. Why would I buy the ETF? So there is some of that spot demand as well. Now there was an interesting comment I wanted to address here in the chat from I1. Said something about March. Said, here we go. Banks will start to fail after 3-1 because funding ends. That should start the full bull run for a few months, I think. Now, we had some weird scammers in the chat a little earlier. Not sure what they were trying to do there other than just spread fear about some kind of technology. But I do appreciate the I1 input here because I did a little research and it's absolutely true. It's on the Federal Reserve website here. frbservices.org. And then you can see there's results from Google as well. You can go back and rewind and take a look at that. But here's the actual story, or the headline is Federal Reserve Board announcing ending of the Bank Term Funding Program on January 24th, 2024. Federal Reserve Board announced off-site the Bank Term Funding Program (BTFP) will cease making new loans as scheduled on March 11th, 2024. So this is a date that's been out there in the public. This has been known about going back quite a ways, because this was initiated. This other part kind of tells the story a little more. It was initiated in March 2023 to help calm the markets after the unexpected bank failures of Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank. So I won. Can't thank you enough, man. That was extreme value for us to know about. That's extremely good. That's the kind of thing where we would start to see the media covering that the closer we got to it. But I1 has his thumb on the pulse of the Fed a little bit more than the media is kind of letting on right now. So much appreciated. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Yeah. How it actually affects markets, it's not exactly clear, because just because the Fed is ending a funding program doesn't necessarily mean that the banks are going to just start failing left and right, and definitely not on March 11th. But that is something to consider. Big Daddy Bullfrog on the biggest lily pad saying, hey, we're going to stop lending money. We're going to stop injecting liquidity into the market on this date. Market knows that. There is bound to be some effects. There could definitely be some effects of that. Yeah, Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be something very interesting to watch. I've seen some other people coming here in chat, though. The chances of them letting banks fail are very slim. That's not something that's in the interest of the Fed. So now you come back in. Let's see who said it. Crypto memes. A crypto meme, I think, said, so they'll have to cut rates or the banks will have to refinance at a higher rate. That's a potential thought right there. Is that going to potentially cause the Fed to say, man, we can't afford to let these banks fail. We have to keep propping them up one way or the other. Yeah, well, let's cut rates to help them survive.
And here's the other thing too, is like the Fed just did this last year. They just spun up a loan facility and said, yeah, if you need money, holla, we'll help you out. What's stopping them from just doing it again? Congress? Yeah. Congress is going to do something for sure. So ultimately, it's pretty clear cut. March 11th, we'll be paying attention when that banking facility, that loan program, comes to a close from the Federal Reserve. I don't anticipate fireworks on that day, but it's something we'll look more into. Edward Snowden breaking. This was breaking just 2:51 was when this was posted, so broke kind of towards the middle of the show. Edward Snowden predicts a government has been buying Bitcoin and will be revealed this year. Man, that's a big, sexy sentence right there. What do you think, Tim?
Government, yeah, well, that's doesn't necessarily limit anything down, but hey, government predicts government buying Bitcoin. I mean, depending on the size of the government, I mean, we have some governments doing some heavy stuff. What country do you think he's talking about?
Well, I'm thinking it could be like a Brazil, maybe Argentina. That would be kind of on the nose. I mean, Snowden, I know, has been spending a lot of time. I don't know this. It's not like I have some kind of insight from information. It's been reported that Edward Snowden's been spending most of his time in Russia and probably other Eastern European countries, so he may have some intel there. I don't know what or why.
Do you think that Putin would like him releasing information about the Russian government?
And that's why Russia is probably not one of my first picks.
I say for that reason, I'm going to say I don't think it's Russia.
I think that a country. I have no idea, right? But if you're looking at this, it's like I think India and Brazil, they're on some pretty good footing globally to try and make a move here, as there's a lot of like tension, as there's a lot of like kind of building in an American election year with two major conflicts going on actively. I think like a country like Brazil or India or Canada, probably not so much. Turkey might come to mind. They could definitely use a change in scenery with their currency getting devalued by the minute. I think one of these type of countries could potentially be this, but this is speculation. This is like speculation on top of Edward Snowden's tweet speculation. So we'll see. Yeah. But that could be very big. That could be very big news, because I mean, if you saw the headline, Bolsonaro has been stockpiling $100 billion in Bitcoin, and that's now in the Brazilian treasury. That's not a small headline, right? Yeah. Especially with Argentina right there on the back door, and Javier Milei at the reins of that.
Yeah, Zachary Martin, he says he's a very vague prediction there. Something in my fridge will go bad by the weekend. The joke is there, so I love that. It does make me suspect, though, because of how vague it is, that it's not only, again, one of these larger economic countries we're talking about, governments talking about, it's not going to be a small amount either. Like for him to tease it like that, I would imagine it's a very significant country that's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is an article about it. I'm sure it won't be the last that we'll hear about it. No. There's an article where there's more details, but I think we've covered it well enough. If they were going to say the country, they would have said it in the headline. But yeah, there you go. We'll probably find out later on this year. But I mean, Edward Snowden, he's someone who's, he gets information everyone else doesn't. That's his thing. Yeah. He gets early exposure to information that very few other people know about. So it's hard not to trust him, and that's why he's getting quoted on Watch Your Dog Guru. There you go. Got a clip here from your favorite man in the world, Jim Cramer. Take a look. Take a listen.
I don't want to. What has Bitcoin ever done for mankind? Are you ever on a Bitcoin phone? Watson, come here. I need you. I mean, what is it?
Well, coming up, United Healthcare is apparently.
I like how he wasn't done. Like the other correspondents started talking, but he's like just totally ignored him and just talked over him.
Well, coming up, United Healthcare is apparently. I don't.
He just wanted to get that last strong piece of the argument in there at the end, Tim. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, no, you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand. The phrase or the question, what has America done for mankind? There's been some other people asking that same question, hasn't there been?
Yeah, what has Bitcoin ever done for mankind?
Yeah. I think we've seen old Auntie Beth kind of ask that question here recently.
Gary
I think
Gensler.
We've seen Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan kind of ask that question here recently. And it's one of those things that, again, I cannot say this with 100% certainty. However, what are the chances that those three individuals specifically use extremely similar language and they have not been in conversations with each other? And there's no kind of coordination to try to FUD a certain asset class. And I say that, because I read chat here. People are asking, Tim, why do you hate Bitcoin? Why do you hate everything? I don't hate Bitcoin. I'm just trying to help people look at markets. But these people do hate Bitcoin. When we talk about that trifecta right there, Jamie Dimon, and I'm not convinced he hates it as much as he wants to control more of it, so he's trying to convince you to not like it. Elizabeth Warren definitely hates Bitcoin. And, good old Jimbo. Good old Jimbo is not a fan of Bitcoin either, although the few times he is a fan of it seems to be pretty bearish for us.
Yeah.
What are the odds that this is not a coordinated attack, that they are all three using that same question? What has Bitcoin done for mankind? And of course, then this goes in hand with what have we seen from, it's an old argument, but all of a sudden the European central banks are rearing up with this, oh no, the mining is really bad for the economy. And now the White House has something saying, oh no, mining could really be bad for the American grid. So the question, what has it done for mankind? Oh, it's actually been harming mankind. I think this is a coordinated attack to try to convince sheep to stay as far away from Bitcoin as possible, because Bitcoin threatens the very existence of these entities that are releasing these articles.
Yep. Well said. Jim Cramer, also well known for talking his own book. What does that mean? It means if you own Apple stock, right, you talk good about it until you decide to sell it, and then you talk real bad about it and you short it, right? That's not technically illegal, right? And folks do that on CNBC day in and day out. Did they do it on YouTube? Of course not. Nobody on YouTube ever talks their book. Let's go ahead and take a look here at this next story. Morgan Stanley evaluating spot Bitcoin ETFs for its giant brokerage platform. Yet another bullish story with some events coming up on the horizon. Although billions of dollars have already been invested in these products, the investment floodgates might not open until Bitcoin ETFs are offered by big registered investment advisors, RIA networks, and broker-dealer platforms, such as those attached to firms like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo, and others. That's all one sentence. That's a beefy, bullish sentence, Tim. I like it. I think there's more information as well. the wealth management firm's former CEO Jonathan Pruzan said at the time that the bank was allowing qualified investors to gain access to 2 passive funds, it is understood that these funds were offered by Galaxy Digital and NYDIG. So over at the bank in question at Morgan Stanley, they have allowed some of their users to have exposure to crypto through Galaxy Digital, one of the earliest movers in the space to bring any kind of crypto to Wall Street. But Morgan Stanley going ahead and evaluating the spot Bitcoin ETFs for potential exposure for their actual customers for their RIA offering, which is a bigger pool of money. Yet again, that's not. Now, I think the pension funds are full stop just the biggest pool of money that there is. In terms of one fund, but when you look at these funds together, these guys are managing all the 401ks for all the doctors, the dentists, the pro golfers, right? The computer engineers, the civil engineers, the environmental engineers, all the engineers, right? All these people that are so smart and they're spending 40, 60 hours a week in their discipline. Their time cannot be wasted sitting here talking about the stuff we love and talk about in and day out, trading stocks, investing in bonds and their mixes. They meet with these advisors maybe once a quarter, and they're like, did you totally screw up? No? Okay, keep buying Apple, keep buying S&P, right? These are the types of folks who are going to be getting exposure to Bitcoin through Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley kind of being, it seems like, one of the first names to take a step out of this category. Merrill Lynch, Wells Fargo are others. So, Tim, does this surprise you? Is this kind of another just bullish headline to toss onto the heap, or is there something more going on here?
First, they'll ignore you, then they'll laugh at you, and then they'll fight you. But eventually, they will all join you. I think we're just seeing the dominoes fall slowly but surely. It's not like we are probably 5 to 10 years or less away from no one trying to say Bitcoin isn't valuable, just disagreeing on what the value of Bitcoin should be.
Yeah. All right, Tim. Well, I've got some spicy ones for you. I've got a spicy story here because there's actually no factoid of the day. The factoid elf was taking the day off. He couldn't handle the Coinbase story, unfortunately. The Coinbase story really hit him hard, and he had to go take a nap. He's actually still asleep. Yeah, he's still asleep. So sorry about that, guys. But we do have a spicy story here because the CEO of Google, Tim, actually factoid on the spot. The factoid elf just had he just drew one on a sign, but he's not going to have time to put in the software. What is the name of the CEO of Google? We know the name of the CEO of Facebook. We know the name of the CEO of Tesla and Amazon. But who is? No, I do not want you. I know who it is. And so does the factoid elf. You don't know? But isn't that interesting that you know Zuckerberg, you know Elon Musk, you know Warren Buffett, you know Bill Gates, you know Jeff Bezos, but you do not know
the name of
Sundar Pichai. So Sundar is the CEO of Google, and
I've heard it. Obviously, he's not a public figure that goes like all over the place speaking.
You're right. Well, who controls news? Who controls information?
Good point.
Yeah. So Sundar, though, having to come to the forefront of the media and tell his employees Gemini AI blunder is unacceptable. Tim, have you seen this? Have you heard of this? Are you tracking this story at all?
Are we talking about the blunder where, like
this blunder?
It's like everything. Like if you were to look up George Washington.
So this is what. So Gemini has released an image production AI similar to Midjourney. It says, certainly, here is a portrait of the founding fathers of America. This is not a meme. This is not a joke. These were real results. And it's like you can kind of see here that maybe there's something in the code of Gemini that might be a little bit glaringly obvious. Maybe that they've kind of maybe overweighted the diversity and inclusion. Nothing wrong with a little diversity. And I like being included in things. But I don't know if our information, the new age of search, should be so one-sided. And it seems to be that Sundar Pichai is in agreement with me on that. What do you think, Tim?
I hope that he's in agreement there. Here, you want to know what the real problem, and the truth is, there's going to be a lot of people, I don't know, I mean, listeners will disagree with this, but a lot of people in the world who would disagree with this. We have a massive attack right now, not just here in the United States, but worldwide, of trying to manipulate or cause people to forget history. Major problem. Major problem. Of course, there's that historic quote that I bet you most kids through high school now have never heard this quote, but Santa Anna, the general in the Mexican-American War, said something very profound. For being an evil person that he said something very profound. He said, those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. There's a massive movement right now that wants people to forget the history of the world so that we will repeat history and have doom again. And even the ones that take this light of trying to be socially just, and they're trying to bring equity, and they're trying misrepresenting history to be equal is just as harmful to minorities as what the actual history was. And the thing is, like, we actually need to remember the tragedy. We need to remember the sins of our forefathers and the details of what went down so that we will not repeat that history. Do not take any, I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here because I don't think there's going to be that many people that disagree here, but we cannot simply agree with something because it makes us feel good. Truth has its moments where it hurts, but it always has the ability to cleanse and to bring healing to a situation. When you start to mask truth or build over truth or rewrite truth, you are harming the very people you're seeking to help. I'm not going to accuse every single person who's a part of the rewriting history movement as being corrupt and thinking that they're harming people, but they have fallen for the lie of those who do want to hurt people, that if we rewrite history and we try to change what history looks like and we teach it wrong to our children, they're going to be doomed to repeat the exact same sins. They're going to have the exact same problems. We cannot allow this to happen. And this is something that I hope, I don't think it's true, but I hope that the CEO of Google would agree with. I'm tending to believe he probably isn't going that far, but I am glad to see him mark and say, hey, this isn't right. We can't keep going this way. Because again, while we look at this and think it's silly, how many 5, 6, 10-year-olds are going to be looking at what's happening right now and things like this and completely lose track of what actually has happened in the world and then make those same mistakes again?
Yeah.
Or even worse, make worse mistakes. Absolutely.
And if in general, I completely agree, Tim. There's actually a further quotation that kind of hits on your point here. Sundar went on to say, I know that some of its responses have offended our users and show bias, to be clear. That's completely unacceptable and we got it wrong. Pichai said, no AI is perfect, especially at this emerging stage of the industry's development, but we know the bar is high for us. So, I think if anything, this does show that Google hasn't just completely copied and pasted Midjourney's backend, which is nice to see. But at the same time, look, when I saw this story, I saw the types of people that were covering it. These are typically people that I generally agree with, but it was all kind of the same crowd, Ben Shapiro, covering this type of stuff, right? And so where the other side is trying to kind of keep it muted, election year, right? So overall here, I'm not sitting here like Google has this huge master plan for, trying to separate and divide the world. There's a possibility that that's true. I'm hearing some arguments that that's true, but this is not going to be the straw that breaks the back of my mind here on this specific issue. It is troubling. It is worrying, right? That this is what we're getting here from some of the largest organizations, not just companies, organizations in the world that have a lot of power on what you see, what you hear, what you read, and what your children see, hear, and read. And it is troubling for sure to see that they are the arbiters of information. The difference here that I'm not super worried about is that it is in beta. It is experimental. We saw similar outcomes with ChatGPT-4 when it was released. People saying, write a negative thing about Donald Trump, and it would do it, and then say, write a negative thing about his opponent, Joe Biden, and it wouldn't do it. Right, as hardcore, and Ben Shapiro made it very clear that that was something he did not approve of. Right, so I think it's a similar situation where there is some understanding here. These are in beta projects.
Yeah,
is there a possibility that there's a much bigger plan going on here? I think there is a possibility, but this isn't the thing that crosses the finish line for me.
Yeah, it's. But again, I want to re-echo. It's not just offensive, like this. He said, I think in the quote, he's like, "Oh, we were aware that some of our users are offended." It's not offensive. It's dangerous. Like, we're not talking about you just called me a name. We're talking about putting a snake in the garden that could affect future generations horribly.
That's a really good way to put it.
And it's something that people should not be quiet about. And guess what? Sometimes when you stand up for truth and you stand up for what's right, there's punishments. There's people that will go against you. But here's what I'll say. As much as people want to act like America is too far gone, and to be fair, there's a lot of things I don't like about how we've moved as a country. At least we still are at a place where within reason we can make our voices known about things like this. We can still make it a strongly opinionated take. And I don't think I think America has some issues that need to be solved, but I think we're still at a place where we can solve those issues. I think that crypto can play a part of that. I think crypto, AI, and everything has the ability, in the same way it has the ability to hurt and to destroy and be dangerous, it also has the ability to be helpful and to expose truth. The same thing, all technology as a whole, I think is a beautiful thing. And unfortunately, there's evil people that use it for evil purposes. Those of us with backbones, those of us with morality, those of us with ethics, we need to stand on the technology and these new innovations and use them for good and truth and fight for that, not succumb to the dangerous aspects that they can be used for.
Absolutely. I love it. Tim, we reported the other day that there were 14 currencies that Bitcoin was currently at all-time high of. Now, this is something that Balaji Srinivasan has been bringing to the attention of his Twitter followers, formerly known as X. And now that number is up to 30 countries as of 9 hours ago. So it's probably more than that. But as you can see, these countries are now including China and India. Like, there are definitely stronger currencies out there, which actually they'd surprise you which ones they are. The dollar in Switzerland and the Swiss franc obviously are up there. But it's starting to get a little bit embarrassing for fiat. Right, that bubble argument is one of the only arguments they have left. If you're a central bank, is like, well, it's just a bubble. It's just speculation. There's no real value to Bitcoin. It's like, okay, well, why has it been at an all-time high to 30 countries' entire fiat systems? Like what is that? What is that then? So there's all kinds of controversies, all kinds of clapping back.
The biggest takeaway.
Look at the scoreboard.
is that fiat sucks. That's really the takeaway from this thing.
I think so.
I saw Kelly, shout out to Kelly Kellum and the BitLab Academy. If you guys are not following his channel, you need to go follow that channel as well. He was showing me a chart. He was supposed to send me the ticker. So as much as I love you, Kelly, I'm upset with you if you're watching because you haven't sent me the ticker. If you were to account for inflation, I think is what he told me this morning. If you accounted for inflation, Bitcoin actually hit a new all-time high to the US dollar as well. So based off of a lot of different factors here. Now the chart with the current dollar value is different, but yeah, when you factor in value wise, I think that Bitcoin hit all-time high with the US dollar as well. And guess what? Whether we hit a new all-time high in the next week or the next 10 weeks, or, we don't hit, I think it's going to happen for the next 10 weeks. I think we're going to see a new all-time high at the very latest within the next 5-6 months. That's more than 10 weeks. Either way, my point here is we're going to have that happen. But fiat currencies' days are numbered, being massively in control. Bitcoin is taking over. It's a revolution. It's taking over, and it will change the way the whole world thinks about value. And I want to remind you guys, I was not able to get there, but shout out to another friend of the channel, Crypto Billy, had a Spaces last night. I think you can go back and listen to it as well. I wasn't able to join, but I know the topic was about the Bitcoin Standard. Great book written by Safdie and Amos. But it's a book that if you have not read, please go read it. I think too many people fall into the trap of getting into crypto and their brain stays focused on money. Money, 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 money. How can I trade this asset to get more money? Money, 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 money. That is completely wrong. The reality is you should be thinking about value. How can I keep as high a value for my time, amount of time, value for my efforts, for my work ethic, for my brain cells? How can I increase my value? Money is simply a tool to measure value, and it's been broken now for an entire generation since going off the gold standard. Bitcoin has the ability, crypto has the ability to bring us back to understanding the real meaning of value and not focusing on the dangling distractor of money that the government wants us to look at, so we don't look at value. That's how they steal your wealth. They get you to think about money. Wealthy people think about value, and I think Bitcoin has the ability to get us back to that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
This has been a long. We had a lot more conversation. I thought we have 366 people watching. Normally, we go into a hefty portion of Q&A. We can take one question running a little bit long. I will let you guys know. I'm gonna go ahead and let this ride. You can share my screen here. For the first time, we are in the negatives. I told you guys I didn't really like this trade, but I'm gonna let it ride here. We do have a let's see. We have the entry point right there at 11, 12. We have a where did it get rid of my take profit? Oh, we gotta put a take profit back in here. Let's see here. I'm gonna do it after the show. I'm gonna put the take profit somewhere right back in here around again that 10. I think we said 1088 was my point. Ultimately, though, we are down $6. I'm gonna let it ride. If we lose it, we'll come back tomorrow with a fresh new $10. But if we do get some profit, maybe turn that 10 into $20, we'll start tomorrow fresh with $20. Thank you to everyone for helping with this community trade. Here we did Dogecoin short. We'll see if it ends up panning out. We'll let you know more about that tomorrow. Let's take one question here, T-Shroom. Call it a day. Again, please go ahead and smash that like button. And if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit subscribe as well. Every time we get to a new 1,000 subscribers, we give away $100. So you can enter to win $100. We are a little less, though. So we're coming up on almost 400 subscribers away from 9,000. We do have a goal. I would say I would love to see us by the end of March get to that 10,000 mark. Help us get there. Smash that subscribe button. Share the channel with your friends. Let's see. Dustin Singer says, really enjoy the show, bros. Multiple awesome videos almost every day. Thank you, Dustin Singer. Yeah, every single day. Weekdays, we put out a morning live show for news. This afternoon, 3 to 4, we have our conversation news. We talk about technical analysis, talk about the markets as a whole. And I'm trying to put out every single day at noon a TA video, an upload, so you guys get all the alpha you need. Let's see anything else here in chat. Not seeing necessary questions. Does anyone have chords on Coinbase?
Chords?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, is that a project? Chords?
I don't know. I have no idea. So that seems like a bad question to make the only question of the day, but it is the only one I'm seeing here more recently. We might have to go ahead and just call it a day. Yeah. Again, been a very, very fun show.
Papa Guff
had a good though.
Papa Guff had a good. We got to end on a good comment here.
Let's get a good comment.
Papa Guff dropped some alpha. He said Coinbase will insure your money in the $30 a month plan. Cheap insurance and free trades too. Worth every penny. Tim, super tinfoil was just a way for Coinbase to get more of those $30 signups.
I was also am like I don't need you to charge me money to keep my money safe. Again, things like that, I'm just like, listen, I don't distrust Coinbase in the first place, but I'm just like, all right, well, just get your money off there and put it in a cold wallet. I can't wait for the technology to come out with cold wallets to where instead of having to take your money from a cold wallet and put it onto an exchange like Coinbase or Robinhood or something else to be able to exchange it, I can't wait for the technology to be really simple and we just exchange things from cold wallet to cold wallet to cold wallet, and we have our own banking system. We don't need the normal banks. Zachary Martin says, check the chart. I don't know if it's doing anything too special. We're below 60K, but I'm not necessarily surprised. And by the way, people have kind of pointed out I had a little more of a bearish tone. I'm not saying with 100% certainty that Bitcoin has to drop back down to 48. I think that's a card that's on the table. But what I want to see is how we react the rest of tonight. And ultimately, tomorrow's the last day of February. It's a leap year, so we get that February 29th. Shout out to anyone. If you were born on February 29th, put something in chat to let me know you were born there. My wife's birthday is March 1st. So if she had been born 1 year later, I think is based off her birthday, she would have been a leap year baby and born on the 29th. But let's see where Bitcoin is closing out February. I don't want to get overly bullish or overly bearish. There are signs that the rally could continue. There are signs that the rally might need to cool off. I'm prepared for both of them. I'm just going to continue to sit and watch before I do anything too crazy. That's what I'm seeing here as a whole. Nothing necessarily too crazy. We'll be back, though, tomorrow if anything big happens overnight. With that said, though, everyone, that is all we have for you on today's show. On your way out again, if you have not, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA, shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news got the word, doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.